record-breaking winter.
Stubborn.
The temperature
Fighter.
We've
Never gave
lost
up on
something
anything.
critical in
I was
modern
living in
construction.
Sacramento at the time.
Back in
about
1869,
90 miles from Mom's
engineers
place in
studied the
Fresno.
Heddel-Stave
I'd
Church
retired
in
from the
Norway
fire
during a
department 3
record-breaking
years
winter.
earlier.
The
after
temperature
32
outside
years
had
of
dropped to
service.
minus
My
35
pension was
degrees
decent.
Fahrenheit.
Not rich,
Snow
but
covered
comfortable.
everything for
My
miles.
wife Linda and I
Winds
had just
tore
paid
through
off
the
our
mountains
mortgage.
with enough
Life
power
was
to
good.
destroy
Karen
any
lived
modern
in
tent.
San Diego.
But inside
She was
this
a
timber
real
church
estate agent.
constructed in
Divorced
1150
twice.
without any heating
Had
system,
one daughter,
without insulation,
Jessica, who
and
was
without
29
modern windows,
and worked as a social
the temperature
media,
8
which as far as I could
degrees
tell meant
Fahrenheit.
she took pictures
No
of herself
fire
for
was
Instagram.
lit. No
Karen
energy was being
and I had
consumed.
never been close.
The building
Even
itself,
as kids, she
constructed
was
from
always
dense
the one
timber
who'd
using
steal
forgotten
cookies
techniques,
and blame
maintained
David.
thermal
The one
stability.
who forged Dad's
Now
signature
think
on
about a
permission
typical
slips.
American home today.
Mom used to say
Turn off
Karen
your
had
heating
creative
when it's 10
problem-solving
degrees
skills.
Fahrenheit outside.
I should have paid
In just
more
4
attention to
hours,
that.
your
When
indoor
Mom got the
temperature plummets
diagnosis,
below
I
40
drove down to
degrees
Fresno
Fahrenheit.
that same day.
Within 8 hours,
Got there around
you're approaching
7
freezing.
p.m. Mom
After
was sitting
18
in her
hours,
kitchen,
you risk
the same
frozen
kitchen
pipes
where she
and
made us
structural
breakfast
damage.
for 50
The
years,
house becomes
and
dangerous.
she was crying.
What
Not
knowledge
sobbing,
did ancient
just
builders
quiet
possess
tears
that
running
we've
down her
abandoned?
face.
Across
It's
the
okay,
Nordic
Mom.
mountains,
I said, hold
hundreds
her
of
hand.
timber
No,
structures from the
baby.
12th to
It's not.
16th
She looked
centuries
at me
remain
with those
intact
sharp
today.
brown eyes
These
that
buildings
had
have
caught me
lasted
in
through
every lie
centuries of
I'd ever
punishment.
told.
They've
I'm not
withstood
ready.
winters
I have
that would
things to
destroy
do.
a contemporary
Like what?
frame
Like
house
make sure
in
you
mere
kids
weeks.
are taken care of.
They
Make
accomplished
sure
this
everything
using
is
3
fair.
fundamental principles
word.
completely
Fair.
absent from modern
I'd
building
hear it a
codes:
lot over the next
thermal
2
mass
years.
storage,
Karen
complete
showed up
air
2 days
sealing,
later.
and heating
Flew
systems
in from
designed
San
around
Diego,
energy storage
rented a
rather
car,
than constant
showed
fuel
up in a
burning.
designer dress,
These weren't
and
separate
heels
tricks.
like she was going to a
They
cocktail
worked
party,
together as
not
one
visiting her
integrated
dying
system.
mother.
Pure
Michael,
physics
she
applied
said,
correctly,
air kissing near
working
my cheek.
alongside
You look
natural
tired.
forces instead
I've
of
been
fighting
here
them.
helping Mom.
Today's
Of course
construction
you
fights
have.
against
She
basic
smiled.
thermodynamics.
Saint Michael.
We
Always
combat
the good
cold
son.
with endless
I let it
energy
go.
input,
Mom was
and we're
dying.
failing badly.
Family drama
Before
could
we
wait.
continue,
That first
leave a
night,
comment below.
the 3 of us
Have
sat
you
in Mom's
experienced a
living
winter
room.
power outage?
Mom was
How
in her
long did your
recliner,
home retain
the one
heat?
Dad had bought her
2
for their
hours,
40th
8
anniversary
hours,
before his
or
heart attack
was it freezing
took him
within
in
minutes?
2015.
Share your
Karen
story,
and I were on the
because
couch.
what comes
I want
next
to talk
will
about practical
transform your
things,
understanding
Mom
of
said.
modern buildings.
Well, I still can't.
Let's go back
Mom,
to
don't.
2012.
I started.
Researchers at the
This is
Technical
important.
University of
She
Norway
pulled out a
conducted
folder.
a
I
fascinating
updated my will
test.
last year.
They used
Everything
2
is
identical
split
sized
equally
structures,
between you two.
each
The
approximately
house,
400
my
square
savings,
feet.
my life insurance.
Structure 1 was an
All of it.
authentic medieval
50
timber
to
cabin built
50.
to 13th
That's not
century
necessary right now,
specifications.
Karen said.
Solid timber
But I
logs
saw her
measuring
eyes
11
flicker
inches in
to the
diameter,
folder. It's very
hand-fitted with
necessary.
precision joinery.
Mom's hand
Zero
shook
modern
slightly
insulation.
as she held up
No
a paper.
plastic barriers.
The house is paid
No
off.
synthetic
It's
materials
worth about
whatsoever.
$650,000
Structure
in this
2
market.
was a
My
contemporary
savings account has
prefabricated dwelling built to current
$380,000.
strict energy
I
regulations.
have a life insurance policy
Heavy insulation
through
rated
Dad's
are
union.
23.
$750,
Multiple vapor
000.
barriers. Triple pane
There's
windows.
also my pension,
On
which
any
stops
building
when I
inspector's
die,
checklist,
and about
the
$20,000
modern structure
in a checking
dominated
account for
completely.
final expenses
Both
and
sat
bills.
in the same
I
location.
did the math.
External
About
temperature,
$1.8 million
minus 12
total.
degrees Fahrenheit.
Split 2 ways.
Both were warmed to a
$900,000
comfortable
each.
70
I didn't
degrees
care
Fahrenheit.
about the money.
Then
I cared about
researchers
Mom,
shut down
but Karen
all
was leaning
heating.
forward,
The contemporary
paying
house
attention.
dropped to
I've also
32
named you
degrees
both as
Fahrenheit
co-executors.
in just 7
Mom
hours.
continued.
The timber
You'll need to
cabin,
work together.
after
Can you
48
do that?
hours,
Of
internal
course,
temperature
Karen
held
said
at
immediately.
56 degrees
Sure, Mom,
Fahrenheit.
I agreed.
After
Mom looked at
72
us
hours,
for a long
3
moment.
complete days
Promise
with
me
0
something.
heat input.
Promise me you'll take
It still
care of each
measured
other.
45
David
degrees
is gone.
Fahrenheit,
Her voice
safely
cracked.
above freezing.
Even 7 years
the modern
later,
building had
talking
become
about
a
David hurt her.
potentially lethal
You two
freezer,
are all
while
that's
the
left of
ancient
this
cabin
family.
remained
Promise
completely
me
habitable.
you won't let money
How is
tear
this
you
possible?
apart. I promise.
A typical engineer
I said.
today would
Me
call
too,
this result
Karen said.
impossible.
Mom
The
nodded.
timber
I'm
cabins
going
are
to keep the
valued
original
sits
will
around
with
9.
my lawyer.
The contemporary
Robert
house
Flores.
boasts are
You both have his
23.
number. When the
Higher
time
our
comes,
value
he'll
equals
handle
superior
everything.
insulation by
Fair
definition.
and square.
The modern
The way I
house
want
should
it.
dominate this test,
Fair
right?
and square.
But
3
our
months
value
later,
only accounts
Mom
for
couldn't
heat
walk
transfer
without
under
help.
steady conditions.
6 months later,
It
she was
completely
in a hospital
disregards
bed
thermal
we'd set up
mass.
in the living living
And
room.
thermal
The
mass
hospice
changes
nurse,
everything
a kind woman
fundamentally.
named Teresa,
A 11-inch
came 3
thick
times a
wall
week.
of old-growth
I'd moved
spruce
in with Mom.
weighs
Linda
approximately
understood.
75
She'd
pounds
visit on
per linear
weekends,
foot.
but during
Wood
the week,
possesses
I slept in my
exceptional
old
specific
childhood
heat
bedroom
capacity,
and took care of
allowing
Mom.
it to store
Changed her
tremendous
sheets,
amounts of
helped her to the
thermal
bathroom,
energy. When
fed
you
her
heat the
when she
cabin,
could eat,
the timber
held her
absorbs
hand
that
when the
warmth
pain was
deep
bad.
into its cellular
Karen
structure.
visited once a month.
When heating stops,
Maybe
the wood
she'd stay for a
releases this
weekend,
stored
make a
energy
show of
gradually
fluffing
over
pillows,
many hours
then
and
fly
even
back to
days.
San Diego.
In the
I
contemporary
have
house,
clients, she'd
walls
explain.
consist of
I
thin
can't just
drywall,
abandon my business.
plastic sheeting,
Fine.
fiberglass
I was there.
insulation,
That's
and
what
exterior
mattered.
cladding.
But something started
Total wall
changing
assembly
around
weight.
month 8.
maybe
Mom
8
started
pounds
asking
per
about
linear
money.
foot.
Michael,
There's
did I
essentially
pay the
zero
electric
mass
bill?
available for
Yes,
heat
Mom.
storage.
Last week.
Insulation
What about
slows heat
property
escape.
taxes?
Sure,
All paid.
but it stores
Don't worry.
absolutely
The
nothing.
life insurance.
The moment your
Did I
furnace
make the
cycles
premium?
off, warmth in the
automatic
air
from your
escapes
account,
through
Mom.
microscopic
It's fine.
gaps and
But
thermal
she'd ask
bridges.
again the next day.
Because stick
and the
frame
day
construction
after.
has no
Like she
thermal
couldn't
mass.
remember.
There's
Well, like
no
something
energy
was worrying
reservoir to
her.
sustain
One
interior
afternoon
temperature.
in November 2021,
Ancient builders
about
grasped
8
this
months
principle
after the
intuitively.
diagnosis,
They
Mom
selected
grabbed
trees
my
aged
wrist while I was
70 to
giving her
90
medication.
years minimum.
Michael,
Trees
listen to me.
growing in
I'm
harsh
listening,
northern climates
Mom.
develop extremely
If anything
slowly.
happens to me,
Growth
if I
rings
get
pack
confused,
incredibly
if I
tight,
can't think straight
sometimes
anymore, you
exceeding
need to watch
120
Karen.
rings
My
per
stomach
inch.
dropped.
This
What do you
creates
mean?
extraordinarily
Just watch her.
dense,
Please.
heavy timber.
She's not like
One
you.
cubic foot
She's
of
always
old-growth
been.
spruce weighs
Mom searched
over
for the
40
word.
pounds.
Opportunistic.
Modern fast-growth pine,
Mom, don't worry
26
about.
pounds.
Promise me.
That density
I
matters
promise.
enormously.
She relaxed back
Greater
into her
mass
pillows.
equals greater
Good.
storage
Good.
capacity.
I should have
More
understood what
storage
she was telling me.
means
I
extended
didn't.
thermal lag time.
November turned
It
into
requires
December.
10 to 16
Mom
hours
rallied
for
a bit
external
during
cold
Christmas.
to penetrate
We had
an
a small
11-inch
celebration.
dense timber wall.
Me,
By that
Linda,
time,
Karen,
you've typically
Jessica,
restarted your heat
and a
source.
few of Mom's
The cabin
oldest friends from
functions like a
church.
massive
Mom was
thermal
weak,
battery,
but happy.
eliminating
She
temperature
kept saying
fluctuations.
it might be her last Christmas.
But mass alone
It
isn't
wasn't.
sufficient.
She made it
You
through
also
New
need
Year's.
complete air sealing.
Then Valentine's Day.
This reveals the
then
second
Easter.
crucial secret.
Your mother is a
Despite
fighter.
all our
Teresa,
advanced
the
house
hospice
wraps
nurse,
and ceiling
said in
tapes,
April 2022,
contemporary homes
I've never seen
leak
someone
like
hang on
seas.
this long.
Blower
with her
door
diagnosis.
testing reveals the average
She's
modern
stubborn,
house
I
has
said.
cumulative air
She's lucky
leakage
to have
equivalent
you.
to leaving
I
a
didn't feel
22
lucky.
by
I
18-inch
felt
window
exhausted.
completely
Watching
open.
someone you love
This
die
isn't hyperbole.
slowly is
Combine
like drowning
every gap
in
around
slow
electrical
motion.
boxes,
Every day,
trim work,
a little
and
bit
window
harder
frames.
to breathe.
That's
That
the
same
hole you're
month,
trying to heat.
April 2022,
When it's 0 degrees
Karen asked
outside,
to talk to me
frigid air
privately.
pours through
We stood
continuously.
outside on Mom's front
Your
porch.
heating system
It was
isn't
a
battling
warm
the walls.
evening.
It's
The kind of
fighting
Central
an
California
invisible
spring
open portal.
that makes you
The
forget
timber
summer
cabins
is coming to
eliminated
bake
this problem.
everything brown.
Logs were
I'm
joined
worried about
using
Mom's
Scribe Fit
finances,
joinery.
Karen
Each
said.
log was
Why?
individually shaped
Everything's
to
handled.
perfectly match
But
the
is it-
log beneath it.
Michael,
This
you're not good
process
with
took
money.
weeks of
You're a
skilled labor.
firefighter.
A
not an
single room
accountant.
could require
That's
months to
dumb.
complete.
I can balance
But
a
the
checkbook,
outcome was
Karen.
a wall assembly
I'm not
with
saying you
virtually
can't.
no air
I'm
infiltration.
saying this is complicated.
Then came the
Healthcare
chinking process.
costs, medications,
Gaps were filled with
property
sphagnum
taxes,
moss harvested from
utilities.
wetlands.
It adds
This
up.
moss
I
absorbs
think I
up to
should help.
25
Help
times
how?
its weight in
Let me
moisture.
handle Mom's accounts.
When dried and
I deal with
compressed,
money
it
all time in
expands
real
into
estate.
every
I
tiny
can make sure
crack.
everything is
Over this,
organized,
builders
paid on
applied
time,
a mixture of
properly
clay
tracked.
blended with animal
Something
fiber,
felt wrong. I
typically
couldn't
wool
name it,
or goat
but it was
hair.
there.
The clay
Mom's lawyer
hardens to
handles the
create an
important
airtight
stuff,
seal while the
I said,
fiber acts
and
like
I got the
reinforcement
day-to-day
to prevent
covered.
cracking.
Karen's
It's a
smile
breathing
tightened.
system.
I'm just
Water
trying to help,
vapor can
Michael.
migrate through,
But fine.
but air
If you wanna be
movement
stubborn
cannot
about
occur.
it. I'm
When
not being
scientists
stubborn.
test these
Whatever you
500-year-old
say.
structures
She went
today,
back inside.
many
I
achieve
stood on
or
that porch
surpass
for another
modern
10
passive
minutes,
house
watching the
airtightness
sun
standards.
set,
A dwelling
wondering why the
constructed with
conversation
hand
felt like
tools
a
and
trap
natural
I'd
moss
barely
outperforms a
2
suburban
weeks
home
later,
built with
Karen brought it
engineered
up again.
composites.
This time in
The
front of
third
Mom.
critical element
Mom,
is the
I really
heating
think we
strategy
should
itself.
consolidate your accounts.
This is where things
Make
get
things
truly
easier.
fascinating.
I could add my name
We
to your
typically
checking,
imagine old
help pay
cabins
bills.
with open
Mom
fireplaces,
looked at her,
but
then
open
at me.
fireplaces
Michael
are
handles
thermal
it,
catastrophes.
but Michael lives
They
90
pull
miles
enormous
away.
volumes of
What if
heated
something
indoor
urgent comes
air
up?
and
What if
blast
you
it
need
straight up the
something
chimney.
and he's not here?
A big open
He's here
fire
every
can
day,
actually cool
Mom
a house
said
by
quietly.
creating negative air
Still,
pressure.
It would be
Instead,
smart to have a backup.
Scandinavians
just
used
in
masonry
case.
heaters
I was
called
about to object
K-Klov
when
or
Mom
soapstone
said,
stoves.
Okay.
These are
My heart
substantial
dropped.
units constructed
Okay.
from stone or
Karen
brick,
smiled.
weighing
Really?
multiple tons.
Just a checking account.
You burn an
for
intense,
bills. Nothing
fast
else.
fire once
Mom's
or
voice
twice
was
daily.
firm. And Michael stays
Combustion
on
is
it too.
complete and
Both of you.
efficient.
Of course,
But instead of
Karen
exhaust
said
gases
quickly.
exiting
That's
directly,
all I meant.
they
Just to
wind
help.
through a
The
maze
next
of
day,
channels within
Karen
the stone
drove
mass.
Mom to the bank.
Heat
I
transfers
offered
to
to
the
go,
stone before
but Karen
gases reach
said,
the chimney.
You've done
By
enough.
the time
Let
smoke
me handle
exits
this.
outside,
They were
it's
gone
barely
for
above
2 hours.
ambient temperature.
When they came back,
All that thermal
Mom
energy
looked
is
tired.
captured in the
More
stone.
tired than usual.
This stone mass
Everything
then
okay?
radiates
I
warmth
asked.
steadily
Fine.
for 10 to
Mom
16
said,
hours.
but she
The
wouldn't look
surface
at me.
temperature stays
That
around
night, after Mom fell
135 to
asleep, I
170
checked her bank
degrees
statements
Fahrenheit.
online. I had
Warm
the
enough
login
to feel
information.
comfortable,
Mom
but
had given it
safe
to me
for
months
direct
ago.
contact.
The checking account
can
showed
sit
Karen
against
had
it.
been added
You can
as a
even
joint
sleep
owner.
beside it.
That was
The
expected.
heat is
But
radiant,
something else caught my eye.
meaning it warms
There had been a
objects and
transfer.
bodies, not merely the air.
$50,000 from Mom's
Radiant
savings
heating
account to
creates
her checking
comfort
account.
at lower air
That afternoon,
temperatures.
while
You
Karen
feel
and Mom were
comfortable
at the
in
bank,
58
I
degrees
stared at the
Fahrenheit
screen.
air
Why
if
would
you're
they
near
move
a 155
$50,000 to
degrees
check it?
Fahrenheit stone
Mom's
mass.
monthly
A
expenses were
contemporary
maybe
forced air
$4,000,
system must heat air
and
to
that
70
included
degrees
everything.
Fahrenheit to
Healthcare,
achieve the same
utilities,
comfort level.
food,
That
property
represents
taxes,
massive energy
even with
waste.
medicine costs.
A Swedish
we didn't
study
need
from
anywhere near
2005 reconstructed a
$50,000
traditional
in a
log
checking
dwelling
account.
and tested
I
it
told
at
myself it was
minus
fine.
18 degrees
Maybe Mom wanted a
Fahrenheit.
cushion.
A single
Maybe Karen
90-minute
suggested
fire
it for
using
safety.
approximately
Maybe
40
I was
pounds
being
of wood
paranoid.
maintained
But
interior
Mom's voice
temperatures
echoed in
above
my head.
57
Watch
degrees
Karen.
Fahrenheit for over
3 days
14
later,
hours.
I checked
Fuel
the account
consumption
again.
was roughly
$15,000
what a
was
modern
gone from
home with
checking.
gas heating would
Just gone.
consume in the
I
same
called Karen
time frame.
immediately.
And
Hey,
this
Michael,
was achieved
what's up?
without
There's
any modern
$15,000
insulation technology.
missing from Mom's
Just
checking
thermal
account.
mass, air
Pause.
sealing,
Oh,
and
that.
radiant heat
Yeah.
working together.
Mom asked me to pay some
Interior
bills.
layout also played
What
a
bills cost
massive role in efficiency.
$15,000.
Scandinavian
Medical
cabins
expenses.
rejected
You
open
know how it
concept
is.
design.
Copays,
Modern open floor
medications,
plans
that
are
specialist
efficiency
consultation
nightmares.
in February.
Heated air
It adds
rises
up.
and gets
I have
trapped in
receipts
high
for all of
ceilings
that.
while
It was
occupants
maybe
freeze at floor level.
$3,000 total.
Medieval
Well,
cabins
there are
featured
other
low
things.
ceilings,
Look,
typically
Michael, I'm
just
handling it.
6.5 feet
You don't need
high.
to worry about
Rooms
every
were small
single
and separated by
transaction.
solid doors.
I'm not worried
This
about every
concentrated
transaction.
heat, where people
I'm worried
actually
about
spend time.
$15,000
The central room for
disappearing.
cooking and
Her
daily
voice got
activities
cold.
stayed
Are you
warmest.
accusing me of something?
Sleeping rooms
I'm
were
asking
cooler,
you to
which didn't
explain.
matter because
I don't
people
have to
slept
explain
under
anything
heavy
to
wool
you.
blankets and
I'm
furs.
so executor.
This thermal
I have
zoning
just as
strategy
much right to
drastically
handle Mom's
reduced
money
heating
as you do.
requirements.
Actually,
There was
I
zero
have
need
more
to
right
maintain
because at
and
least
use
I understand
spaces at
finances.
68 degrees
Karen,
Fahrenheit.
I've got to
We've
go.
completely
I have a
discarded this
client.
logic in
She
our
hung up.
obsession with
I sat there holding
expansive
the
great
phone,
rooms.
my hands shaking.
Then consider the
That
foundation
night,
approach.
I asked Mom about it.
Many modern
Mom,
American homes
did you ask
sit
Karen
on
to pay
slab-on-grade concrete.
$15,000 in
Concrete
bills?
functions
Mom
as a
looked
thermal
confused.
bridge.
What
It
bills?
pulls heat from your
That's what
living
I'm
space
asking.
and
I
dumps
don't-
it straight
I don't
into
remember.
frozen ground.
She pressed her
Scandinavian
hand to her
cabins were
forehead.
elevated on
The pain
stone
medication
piers that lifted
makes
timber
everything
off the earth.
fuzzy.
This
It's okay,
created an
Mom.
air gap
Don't worry
functioning
about
as
it.
insulation.
But I was worrying.
Floors
a lot.
consisted of thick planks,
Over the next 3 weeks,
often double
I
layered with
watched the
sawdust
account like
or
a
moss
hawk.
packed between.
Another $8,000
This eliminated the thermal
disappeared.
bridge completely.
Then $12,000.
No heat bled into the ground
then
below.
$20,000.
Every design detail
Every time I called
focused
Karen,
on heat
she had an
retention.
explanation.
So
Medical
why did we
bills,
abandon these
property
proven methods?
taxes paid
3
early.
primary reasons:
Investment opportunities
speed,
she was
cost,
setting up
and
for
cheap
Mom.
fossil fuels.
Home repairs that
After
needed
World
to be
War
done before
II,
Mom died.
we needed
so the
millions
house
of
would sell
houses
for more.
immediately.
None of it made
Scribing
sense.
logs
I
and
called Mom's
hand-cutting
lawyer,
joints required
Robert
months.
Forrest.
Stick
Mr.
framing
Forrest,
with dimensional
this is
lumber
Michael Chung.
and plywood
Il y a no
took
raison.
only weeks.
Michael,
Labor
of
costs
course.
were high,
How's your mother?
so materials
Hanging in
needed
there.
to be
Listen,
inexpensive.
I have a question
Thin walls
about her
with that
accounts.
insulation
My
cost
sister
far less
Karen was
than
added
solid
to the
timber.
checking account.
Then came
and there's
the
been
energy
some
revolution.
unusual activity.
During the
Large
1950s and
withdrawals.
60s,
How
oil
large?
and natural gas
About
were incredibly cheap.
$55,000 in
Who
3
cared about
weeks.
efficiency
Silence.
when you could simply
Mr.
turn up the
Forrest?
thermostat?
That is concerning.
We stopped designing
However,
for resilience
if your
and
mother
started
authorized
optimizing for
Karen to be on
lowest
the
initial
account,
cost.
and if
We
Karen
created
is
houses
using it
on
for
life
your mother's
support,
expenses, there's
requiring
not much I
constant
can do
energy
legally
input.
unless
Cut
we
the
can
supply,
prove impropriety.
and they fail
What if the
immediately.
expenses aren't
But energy
real?
costs
Do
have
you have proof?
skyrocketed.
I didn't.
Power grids
Not
are
yet.
becoming
Then my
increasingly
advice
unstable.
is to document everything.
People are realizing their
records,
expensive
bank
homes are
statements,
actually extremely
receipts,
fragile.
any communication
Throughout
with your
Europe,
sister about
particularly
the money.
in Germany,
If this goes somewhere we
Austria,
don't want to
and
go,
Switzerland,
you'll
there's a
need
significant
evidence.
movement
You
returning
think
to
she's
solid
stealing
timber
from Mom?
construction
I
and
think you
mass
should watch
timber
the accounts
technology.
very carefully.
This isn't nostalgia.
There's that word
It's
again.
applied physics.
Watch. I started
Architects
keeping a
are merging
spreadsheet.
traditional timber
Every
principles
withdrawal,
with
every
contemporary
transfer,
technology.
I wrote it down.
Thick cross-laminated
Date,
timber
amount,
panels,
Karen's
masonry
explanation if
heaters,
she gave
and
one.
intelligent
By June
compact layouts.
2022,
They're
3
achieving
months
dramatic
after Karen
reductions
got
in
access
energy
to the checking
consumption.
account,
A properly constructed solid timber
$127,000
home
was
can
gone.
operate
I
on
confronted her
one-third
again,
the energy
this time
of conventional
face to face.
construction.
She'd
And
flown
when
up for a
power
visit,
fails,
staying at
it
a
remains
hotel
livable
instead
for
of at
multiple
Mom's
days.
house, because the
Scientific
medical
research
equipment makes it
supports
hard
these
to
claims
sleep.
completely.
We met for
A
coffee at
2019
Starbucks
study
near
by the
Mom's
University
house.
of
You've
Innsbruck
taken
monitored solid timber houses
$127,000,
versus conventional
I
builds
said,
over 5 years.
sliding a printed
The
copy
timber
of my
homes
spreadsheet
consumed
across the table.
38%
Karen
less heating
glanced at it.
energy during winter.
Is this what you've been doing
In
with your
summer,
time?
they
Making
required no
spreadsheets
air
about me.
conditioning because
Answer the
thermal
question.
mass buffered
I haven't
heat
taken
gain.
anything.
Residents
I've been
reported
managing
fewer
Mom's
drafts and
expenses.
superior
Like she
indoor poor air
asked me
quality.
to.
With
Show me the
naturally
receipts.
moderates humidity,
I don't have to show you
absorbing
anything.
excess
Yes,
moisture
you do.
when damp
We're
and releasing it when
co-executors.
dry.
That means
No mold
transparency.
problems.
She laughed.
No dry air
Actually
issues.
laughed.
No
Michael,
noisy
you're
mechanical
so out of your depth
humidifiers
here.
needed.
You think you
And
understand
there's another
how money
factor we
works
rarely
because
discuss:
you paid a
longevity.
mortgage for 30
A
years.
contemporary house
You have
begins
no idea
deteriorating
how to
the
manage
moment
wealth.
construction finishes.
This isn't wealth management.
Vapor barriers
This
tear.
is theft.
Fiberglass
Her eyes
settles
went hard.
and
Be
loses
very
effectiveness.
careful what you accuse me
Framing lumber
of. Or
rots
what?
when moisture
Look,
penetrates
I'll make sure Mom
behind
knows
siding.
you're harassing me.
After
Do you
25
want to
years,
stress her out in her
you're
final
facing
months?
major
Make
renovation
her last
expenses.
days about your paranoia.
Scandinavian
That hit
timber
me like a
cabins
punch.
have endured
This
for
isn't
500
paranoia,
years.
isn't it?
As
She
timber
stood up.
settles during the
I'm
first
done with
few
this
years,
conversation.
joints
If you can't
actually
trust
become
me,
tighter.
that's your problem.
A
But I'm
40-year-old
doing what's
log
best for
home
Mom,
often
which
performs
is more
better
than I can say
than
for
a
you
brand
sitting
new one.
around
It's
counting
an
pennies
asset
like
that
Scrooge.
improves with age.
She walked out.
While
I
modern
sat there for a
construction
long
depreciates
time,
from day one.
staring at my spreadsheet,
If you're planning to build
feeling
or renovate a
helpless.
home today
When I
for
got back to
resilience,
Mom's house, she was
efficiency,
awake,
and longevity,
sitting up in her
adopt
bed.
these principles.
Michael, come here.
You don't need to
I
live in a
sat in the
medieval
chair
structure,
next to her.
but you can
Are you
incorporate
and
thermal
Karen
mass.
fighting?
Investigate
No,
mass
Mom,
timber or
everything's
solid log
fine.
construction options.
Don't lie to me.
If
I'm
solid
dying,
timber
not
walls
stupid.
aren't feasible,
Her hand found mine.
integrate
What's
stone
wrong?
mass internally.
I couldn't tell her.
A masonry
I couldn't
heater
add
or a
that stress
substantial
to her
stone
dying
fireplace
days.
surround can
Just sibling
serve as your
stuff?
thermal
I
battery.
said, we'll work it out.
Prioritize
Mom
complete air
studied my
sealing.
face.
Invest
taking
in
money.
professional
Isn't
blower door
she?
testing and
My breath
seal
caught.
every leak
Mom,
meticulously.
I'm not as
This
out of it as
delivers
everyone
more
thinks.
value than adding
I see the
extra
bank
insulation
statements when they
layers.
come. I see
Designed
numbers
for
that don't make
compactness.
sense.
Eliminate
Her grip
cathedral
tightened.
ceilings if
How
efficiency
much?
matters to you.
Mom, don't worry
Lower
about
ceilings
this.
and
How
closable
much,
rooms
Michael?
concentrate
About
heat where you actually are.
$127,000.
Implement thermal
She
zoning
closed her
strategies.
eyes. One
Heat your
tear
living
rolled
spaces
down her
actively.
cheek. I'm
Allow
sorry.
sleeping areas to
For
remain
what?
cooler.
For not protecting
And
you
think
from her.
long-term value.
For not seeing it
A
sooner.
house costing
For being weak.
$60,000 more
You're
to
not weak.
construct, but
You're the
saving you
strongest person I know.
$120,000
Then
in
why can't I
utilities
stop her?
and maintenance
Her
over
voice
30
broke.
years
It's
is
my
the
money.
intelligent
My
investment.
life savings.
Modern building
And I
codes
can't even
obsess
protect
over
it
our
because I
values
can
and
barely think
upfront
straight
construction
anymore.
costs.
The
They
cancer, the
completely
medication,
ignore
it's
resilience
all.
and life
It's
cycle
all
value.
fog.
The
I'll protect
Scandinavian
it,
farmer
I
in his
said.
13th
I
century
promise.
cabin
But I
wasn't
didn't know
primitive
how.
or backward.
Not yet.
He was a
July
master of
2022
practical physics.
was brutal.
He
The
understood
heat,
that heat
the waiting.
requires mass
Watching
for
Mom
storage.
slip away
He
inch
knew
by
air
inch
infiltration
while Karen
is the
bled
real
her
enemy,
accounts dry.
not cold
I started
itself.
taking photos
He knew radiant
of
heat
every bank
outperforms
statement,
forced air
every
fundamentally.
transaction.
And
I had a
he
folder
knew
on my
working with
phone
natural
labeled
principles
insurance
beats
documents
fighting them with
in case
mechanical
Karen
systems.
ever looked.
We
Inside
exchanged
were
that
47
accumulated wisdom for
screenshots of
construction
withdrawals,
speed and cheap
transfers,
fossil fuel
and Karen's
energy.
text message
Now that
excuses.
energy is expensive and climate patterns are
$127,000
becoming
became
more extreme, we're paying the price for that trade.
$183,000.
If you
Then
found this information valuable,
$240,000.
hit that like button
The savings
and
account
subscribe.
was almost
We're
empty.
uncovering forgotten
Karen had
knowledge that
transferred
the
all
modern
to
construction
checking,
industry
then slowly
doesn't want
drained.
widely known.
When I asked her about
The medieval
it, she
timber
said,
cabin wasn't
Mom wanted her
accidental
money
or
liquid.
lucky.
Easy
It
to
represented
access for
centuries of
end-of-life
experimentation
expenses.
and
End-of-life
refinement.
expenses
Structures
don't
that
cost
failed harsh winters were abandoned
$240,000.
and forgotten.
I contacted
Designs
Mom's
that
bank
succeeded were
directly,
copied
asked to
and
speak to the
improved.
branch manager.
What survived
woman
was a
named
building
Patricia
system so
Santos
effective it
agreed to
protected
meet with
families
me.
through minus
Mr.
40
Chun,
degrees
I understand your
Fahrenheit winters
concerns,
with
but
zero
your
electricity
sister is a
and
joint account
zero
holder.
natural gas.
She has legal authority
These people worked
to access the
14-hour
funds.
days, built
Even if my
civilizations,
mother
and
has
raised
dementia
families
from
successfully.
medication, even
They
if she
weren't weak
can't
or
consent,
struggling.
Patricia's
They were
face
strong
softened.
because their homes
Did your mother
actually
have a
sheltered
medical
them
power
instead
of
of
attorney
demanding
established?
constant energy and
Yes.
money.
Both
This
me and Karen
knowledge
are
wasn't lost
co-agents.
forever.
Then unless
It
you
was
can
simply
prove your
buried
mother
under
is
marketing
mentally
hype and
incompetent
short-term
through a
profit
legal
thinking.
process,
Every
or
time you
unless you
build
can
with
prove
thermal
fraud,
mass,
my
seal
hands are
air
tied.
leaks properly,
Your
and use
sister
radiant
isn't
heating,
breaking
you're
any
reviving
banking
that
laws.
wisdom.
She's
Wisdom
stealing.
that kept
You
people
believe
alive,
you wait. And
knowledge
when the
that
time
builds
comes,
true
you
resilience
fight.
into your
What
home.
if there's nothing
Thanks
left
for
to
watching,
fight for?
and I'll see
Then
you in the
fight
next
anyway.
one.
For your
We've
mom.
lost something
For what's
critical
right.
in modern
Linda
construction.
always knew the right
Back in
thing to say.
1869,
2 days later,
engineers studied the
something
Heddle
unexpected
Stave
happened.
Church in
A
Norway
woman
during
showed
a
up at Mom's
record-breaking
house.
winter.
She
The
was maybe
temperature
35,
outside had dropped
dressed
to minus
professionally,
35
carrying
degrees
a folder.
Fahrenheit.
She
Snow
knocked at
covered
2 p.m.
everything for miles.
right after Teresa
Winds
had
tore
finished
through the
Mom's
mountains
afternoon
with
care.
enough power
Can I
to
help you?
destroy
I
any
asked through the
modern
screen
tent.
door.
But
Are you Michael
inside
Chun?
this timber church
Yeah.
constructed
My
in
name is Amy
1150
Reyes.
without any
I'm
heating
your
system,
cousin.
without
Well,
insulation,
second cousin.
and
My
without modern
grandmother was your
windows,
mom's
the
cousin
temperature
Rosa.
remained at
Iwagwedi
40 48
di
degrees
remember the Rosa.
Fahrenheit.
She
No
died when I was a
fire
kid.
was lit.
Okay.
No
I
energy
said
was being
carefully.
consumed.
Can I come
The
in?
building itself,
I need to talk to you about
constructed
something
from dense
important.
timber using
I let her
forgotten
in.
techniques,
We sat at the
maintained
kitchen
thermal
table.
stability.
The same table
Now
where
think
Mom
about
had
a typical
told us
American
about the
home
cancer.
today.
The
Turn
same
off the
table
heating
where
when it's
everything
10
had started
degrees
falling
Fahrenheit
apart.
outside.
I'm a paralegal,
In just 4 hours,
Amy said.
your indoor
I worked for a
temperature
law
plummets
firm in San
below 40
Francisco.
degrees
The
Fahrenheit.
state law mostly.
Within 8 hours,
I heard through the
you're
family
approaching
grapevine
freezing.
that your mom is
After
sick,
18 hours,
and I wanted to reach
you
out.
risk frozen
That's
pipes
kind of you,
and
but
structural
I
damage.
also heard Karen
The
is on your
house
mom's
becomes
accounts.
dangerous.
That stopped me
What
cold.
knowledge
How
did
did you hear
ancient
that?
builders possess
My mom
that we've
talked to her
abandoned?
sister,
Across
who
the
talked to
Nordic
someone at your
mountains,
mom's church,
hundreds of timber
who mentioned
structures
Karen
from the
was
12th
helping
to
with
16th
finances.
centuries remain
And based on what I
intact
know
today.
about Karen from
These
family
buildings have
stories,
lasted
that set
through
off
centuries
alarm
of
bells.
punishment.
What do you know
They've
about
withstood
Karen?
winters that
Amy
would
opened her
destroy
folder.
a contemporary
When Karen
frame
was
house in
22,
mere weeks.
she borrowed
They accomplished this using
$15,000
three
from our
fundamental
grandmother
principles
Rosa
completely
for a
absent
business
from modern
opportunity.
building codes.
Never paid it
Thermal
back.
mass storage,
When Karen was
complete air
28,
sealing,
she
and heating
convinced your Aunt
systems
Margaret
designed
to
around
co-sign
energy
a car
storage
loan.
rather than
Karen
constant fuel
defaulted.
burning.
Margaret's
These weren't
credit
separate
was
tricks.
destroyed.
They
When
worked
Karen was
together
34,
as one integrated
she
system.
borrowed
Pure physics
$8,000 from her
applied
mom
correctly,
for Jessica's
working
college fund.
alongside natural
My mom
forces
saw that check.
instead of fighting
Did
them.
Jessica get that
Today's
money?
construction
My stomach
fights against
turned.
basic
I don't know.
thermodynamics.
Jessica
We
went to
combat
community
cold
college
with
for one
endless
semester,
energy
then
input,
dropped out.
and we're
That
failing
was 12
badly.
years ago.
Before we
So where did
continue,
$8,000
leave a comment
go?
below.
I
Have
stare
you
at this
experienced
woman
a winter
I just
power
met.
outage?
This
How
stranger
long
who
did
knew
your home
more about
retain
my
heat?
sister's history
2
than I
hours,
did.
8 hours?
Why are you telling me
or
this?
was it freezing
Because
within
family
minutes?
should protect family.
Share your story.
And because I've seen this
what
before
comes
in my
next
work.
will
Someone
transform your
gets access
understanding of
to an
modern
elderly
buildings.
person's account
Let's go
during
back
end-of-life
to
care.
2012.
They start with small
Researchers
amounts,
at the Technical
test the
University of
waters,
Norway
then
conducted
bigger
a
amounts.
fascinating test.
By the time anyone
They
notices,
used two
the
identical
accounts
sized
are
structures,
empty and the
each
victim
approximately
is dead.
400 square
That's
feet.
exactly what's
Structure
happening.
1 was an
How much has she
authentic
taken?
medieval timber cabin built to
$240,000
13th century
that I can
specifications.
prove.
Solid
Amy,
timber
close her
logs
eyes.
measuring 11
Jesus.
inches in diameter.
What do I do?
Hand-fitted
You need
with
a lawyer.
precision joinery.
Not just any
Zero
lawyer.
modern
Someone
insulation.
who specializes
No
in
plastic
elder
barriers.
financial abuse.
No synthetic
And you need to act
materials
fast
whatsoever.
because once your mom
Structure
passes,
2 was a
proving abuse
contemporary
becomes
prefabricated
exponentially
dwelling
harder.
built to
I can't
current
afford a
strict
lawyer.
energy
My
regulations.
pension is decent,
Heavy insulation
but not
rated
lawyer-level
R
decent.
23.
The lawyer I work for
Multiple
takes
vapor
some
barriers.
cases pro
Triple
bono
pane
if
windows.
there's clear elder
On
abuse.
any building
Let me make a
inspector's
call.
checklist,
Can you send me
the
your
modern
documentation?
structure dominated
I
completely.
sent her everything.
Both
The
sat
spreadsheet,
in the same
the
location.
screenshots,
External
the
temperature,
timeline. 2
minus
days later,
12 degrees
Amy
Fahrenheit.
called back.
Both
My boss
were
wants to meet
warmed
with
to
you.
a comfortable
His name
70
is
degrees
Richard Chun.
Fahrenheit.
No
Then
relation,
researchers shut
different
down
Chun.
all
He
heating.
looked at your evidence,
The contemporary
and he's
house
interested.
dropped to
We met
32
the
degrees
following
Fahrenheit
Tuesday.
in just
Richard
7
Chin's
hours.
office was in
The timber
downtown
cabin,
Fresno.
after 48
on the 3rd
hours,
floor of an old
internal
building
temperature
that
held at
smelled like coffee
56
and
degrees
paper.
Fahrenheit.
He was maybe 50,
After 72
salt
hours,
and pepper hair,
3 complete
sharp
days
eyes.
with zero
Mr.
heat
Chun,
input.
I'll be
It
direct.
still measured
What your
45
sister
degrees
is doing
Fahrenheit,
is likely
safely
elder
above
financial
freezing.
abuse under
The modern
California
building
law.
had become
The problem
a
is
potentially
proving it
lethal
before your
freezer,
mother dies.
while the ancient
How is her
cabin
mental
remained
state?
completely habitable.
Declining.
How
The
is
pain
this
medication
possible?
keeps her
A
pretty
typical
out.
engineer
She
today
has
would
good
call
days
this
and
result
bad days.
impossible.
Can she
The timber
testify
cabin's
to
R
not
value sits around
authorizing
9.
these withdrawals?
The contemporary
Some
house
days,
boasts
yes.
R
Some
23.
days she
Higher
barely
R
knows
value
who I am.
equals superior
Richard nodded.
insulation by
We
definition.
need to move quickly.
The modern
I can
house
file
should
for a
dominate
temporary
this test,
restraining
right?
order to
But
freeze the
R
accounts.
value only
But I
accounts
need your
for
mother to
heat
sign an
transfer
affidavit
under
on a
steady
good day
conditions.
stating
It
that she didn't
completely
authorize
disregards
Karen
thermal
to withdraw
mass.
that money
And
for
thermal
personal
mass
use.
changes
What if
everything
Karen says
fundamentally.
mom did
An
authorize
11-inch thick
Then it
wall
becomes
of
a
old-growth
he said,
spruce
she said
weighs
situation,
approximately
and we'll need
75
additional
pounds per
evidence.
linear foot.
Do you have any
Wood
recordings?
possesses
Any
exceptional
witnesses
specific
to
heat capacity,
conversations?
allowing
No
it to store
recordings.
tremendous amounts
But
of thermal
Teresa,
energy.
the hospice
When you
nurse,
heat the cabin,
has been around
the
for
timber
some of the
absorbs
financial
that warmth
discussions.
deep into
And
its
mom's
cellular
doctor
structure.
can testify
When heating
to her
stops,
medication
the wood
levels
releases
and
this
cognitive
stored
state.
energy
That
gradually
helps.
over many
Here's
hours
what I need
and
from you.
even days.
Get your mother to
In the
sign an
contemporary
affidavit on her
house,
next clear day.
walls consist
I'll
of thin
draft it.
drywall,
Get Teresa
plastic
to
sheeting,
witness it.
fiberglass
Then we
insulation,
file for
and
emergency
exterior
relief
cladding.
to freeze
Total
the
wall
accounts
assembly
and
weight,
demand an
maybe 8
accounting
pounds
from
per
Karen
linear
of
foot.
every dollar
There's
spent.
essentially
How
zero
long does
mass
that
available
take?
for heat
In
storage.
emergency
Insulation
situations?
slows heat
2
escape.
weeks maybe.
Sure,
Depends on
but
the
it
court
stores
calendar.
absolutely
2
nothing.
weeks. weeks.
The
In
moment
that
your
time,
furnace cycles
Karen
off,
could drain another
warmth in the air escapes
$50,000
through
or more.
microscopic gaps
There's one
and
more
thermal
thing,
bridges.
Richard
Because
said.
stick frame
This will get
construction
ugly.
has no
Your
thermal
sister will
mass,
fight back.
there's no energy
She'll hire
reservoir to
lawyers.
sustain
She'll
interior
make
temperature.
accusations against you.
Ancient builders
She'll try to
grasped
paint
this
you
principle
as the
intuitively.
one taking
They
advantage of your
selected
mother.
trees
Are
aged
you
70
prepared for
to
that?
90 years
I thought about
minimum.
Mom crying,
Trees growing
saying,
in
"I'm
harsh
sorry."
northern
I thought
climates
about
develop
40 years of her
extremely
working
slowly.
as a bookkeeper,
Growth rings pack
saving
incredibly
every
tight.
penny. denying
sometimes
herself
exceeding
luxuries
120
so we'd have
rings per
something when
inch.
she was gone.
This creates
I said,
extraordinarily dense,
I'm prepared.
heavy timber.
We drafted the
1
affidavit
cubic
that
foot
afternoon.
of old-growth
Simple,
spruce
clear
weighs
language.
over 40
I,
pounds.
Eleanor
Modern
Chun,
fast-growth
am
pine,
of sound mind at the
26
time of
pounds.
signing this document.
That density
I
matters
authorized
enormously.
my daughter Karen
Greater
to be
mass
added to my
equals
checking
greater
account
storage
for the sole
capacity.
purpose of paying
More
my monthly
storage
bills and
means
expenses.
extended thermal
I did not
time.
authorize
It
her
requires
to withdraw
10 to
large
16
sums
hours
of
for
money
external
for personal
cold
use
to penetrate
or for
an
any
11-inch
purpose other
dense
than my
timber
direct
wall.
care.
By
I
that
believe
time,
money has been
you've
taken from my
typically
accounts
restarted your
without
heat
my
source.
permission.
The
I
cabin
request
functions like a
immediate
massive thermal
investigation
battery,
and accounting
eliminating
of
temperature
all funds.
fluctuations.
I took it home,
But mass
waited for
alone
Mom
isn't sufficient.
to have a clear morning.
You also need
It
complete
came
air sealing.
3 days later.
This reveals
August
the second
2nd,
crucial secret.
2022.
Despite
Mom woke up
all our
more
advanced
alert
house
than she'd been
wraps
in
and
weeks.
sealing tapes,
Morning,
contemporary
baby,
homes
she said
leak
when I
like
brought her
sieves.
breakfast.
Floor
Morning,
door
Mom.
testing
You seem
reveals
good
the
today.
average modern
I
house
feel
has
good.
cumulative
Well, not
air
good,
leakage
but
equivalent to
clear.
leaving a
My head is
22 by
clear.
18-inch
Mom,
window
I need you
completely
to do
open.
something.
This
And I
isn't
need you to
hyperbole.
trust me.
Combine
I
every
explained
gap
everything.
around electrical
The
boxes,
affidavit,
trim work,
the lawyer,
and window frames.
the plan.
That's
Mom
the
listened
hole
quietly.
you're trying to heat.
When I finished,
When
she
it's 0
said,
degrees
"Where do I
outside,
sign?"
frigid air
Teresa
pours through
witnessed the
continuously.
signature.
Your
She
heating
even added
system
her
isn't
own
battling
statement.
the walls.
I have been Eleanor
It's fighting
Chin's
an
hospice
invisible
nurse
open
for 14
portal.
months.
The timber
In my
cabins
professional
eliminated
opinion,
this problem.
she understood
Logs
this
were joined
document
using
and signed it
Scribe-Fit
willingly.
joinery.
2
Each
days
log
later,
was individually
Richard
shaped
filed
to
for a
perfectly
temporary
match the log
restraining
beneath
order
it.
and
This
emergency
process took weeks
Karen
of
got the
skilled
notification
labor.
on
A
August
single
9th,
room could require months to
2022.
complete.
She called
But
me
the
at
outcome was a wall
11:47
assembly
p.m.
with
I know
virtually
because I
no
looked
air
at the clock.
infiltration.
What the fuck
Then
did you
came
do?
the chinking process.
She was screaming.
Gaps
I
were
protected
filled
Mom.
with sphagnum
You
moss
sued me?
harvested from wetland.
Your own sister.
This moss
You're
absorbs
stealing
up
from
to
our dying
25
mother.
times its weight
I'm
in
managing
moisture.
her money.
When
Money that
dried
will be
and
mine
compressed,
anyway
it
when
expands
she
into
dies.
every tiny
Half
crack.
yours.
Over
And
this,
only if there's
builders
anything